Hi, my name is Lorna, and today we're going to be learning how to do iris folding or to make a card. So today I am using strips of paper that I have folded in half, and I'm not going to show you how to cut these or tell you the size because it depends on the hole that you have cut as well as the amount of colors that you want to use. You can use magazines, you can use scrapbook paper, printer paper, it doesn't matter. I'm using cardstock today. You just want to make sure that your fold is very, very creased, so you can use in between your fingers, on a table, or with scissors. So here's my finished one. I'll show you a time lapse of this guy at the end if you're interested in seeing that. Iris folding is just taking the paper and going around in a spiral motion in order to get a center, which is the iris or the eye of the paper, of the project. There's a ton of different patterns online that you can use. This is more of a free-form, freestyle version of iris folding. You can get very precise and use measurements, but this is just kind of a easy way to make a cool looking card. And since Mother's Day is this weekend, I decided to make a card for my mom. She suggested this video, so shout out to my mom. She does a lot of iris folding and she is a pro at it, so I am excited to make this for her. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take these strips and I'm going to tape them down. I'm just using Scotch tape, but you could use glue or you could use any kind of tape that you have available, like masking tape or painter's tape. This part is not going to be seen. You should cover up the back or put it in a frame or something like that so that no one can see it. So I'm just going to go around, and if you're unsure of your placement, you can put on your strip of paper and then flip it around. The window, I'm using a heart for my window. You could use a flower, you could use a circle, you could use a triangle. It doesn't really matter. I'm following the shape of the heart in my spiral a bit, but you could easily do a square and then pop it in this window and it would look just as cool. So I'm making sure to tape both ends quite well, because I find that if you just put a teeny tiny piece of tape, you get some of your pieces that flip up a bit, and I don't like that happening. So I am over taping it quite a bit. So this is where I'm kind of diverting from the traditional iris folding, is I am trying to keep in line with the heart shape that I have. And again, I'm not using a pattern. If you're using a pattern, you can follow along with the shape that they have that goes with the heart that they're using. But I am winging it as I go, but keeping with that spiral motion. Just only modifying it for the where the heart goes inwards. So I'm just going to keep going in this way, and I'm going to cut strips. That's why the length doesn't matter so much, is I end up cutting my strips. This is just about 1 inch strips folded in half to about 1/2 inch strips. And the length is the length of a sheet of paper. But I end up cutting them quite a bit, especially as the circle gets smaller and smaller towards the iris. I cut them into smaller pieces because I don't want a ton of paper hanging off the edge. That's going to add more bulk to the back of my product, but also because that way I can use that same strip of paper in multiple areas, because the only part that I care about is the part that's going to show in my window. And if you're not sure what's going to show in your window, again, flip it over and do some adjustments there. For the lettering that I did on there, if you're curious, I just cut out M with an X-Acto blade and filled in some extra strips of paper, taped those on. You could, again, use glue. I'm hesitant to use glue for these types of projects. I might use hot glue if I were to do this, or something that is not as wet, like a glue stick. But because I'm using cardstock, I feel like a glue stick would not be strong enough for the cardstock, because the cardstock wants to unbend and it has a heavier weight to it, so it needs more adhesive to hold it down. And if I used a wet glue, like an Elmer's glue or a Mod Podge, it might be too damp and warp the paper. You could use rubber cement for this. That would be a really good glue. The rubber cement tends to smell not nice when you're working with it, and so you'd have to have it out next to you. So it would work really good. It's great for paper, but it would not be pleasant to smell the whole time you're doing this project. Tape works really, really good. You're not going to see it, and it has a strong hold. It is also archival, so you're going to have this around for a long time. So again, I'm just flipping it over and checking and going in with my colors. The colors that you choose are up to you. My mom actually does this a lot with magazines, and it looks really, really cool. You can cut out things from National Geographic that just have big sheets of color and do a gradient with the colors that you see in there, and it's quite beautiful. The colors I'm choosing were just ones that I thought were bright and happy and kind of springy. I'm also a big fan of the teal and green combination, and then I threw in yellow to go with that, and then I wanted a complement to make all those colors pop out, so the purple I think looks really nice with the yellow that I have. And as you see that it's the iris is starting to close in. It's just like a camera lens. As it's starting to close in, it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And so I'm needing less and less paper. So if you were trying to conserve paper, or you didn't have as much of one type of paper as another, you could use the one you have the most of on the outside and the one you have the least of on the inside. And you'll see that the shape is changing. If I were to pre-plan this and draw out my iris in the exact curvature that I wanted it to go, I could control the shape of the iris a little bit more. I could make it more circular, more triangle, more square, depending on what I wanted. So I'm just going to continue in this manner until the iris is as small as I want, and then I'm going to pop a piece of yellow onto the back of it to cover it. And then you can go ahead and pop it in a frame, or add a backing, or attach it to the front of some more cardstock to make a card. The options for this are limitless. You can make a big art piece of this and put it on the wall, and that would be really cool too, so it doesn't have to just be a card. So I'm not going to show you the finishing of this. I'm just going to show you the method to get the iris. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and that you have a wonderful weekend, and that you try this out. And if you try it out, go ahead and give us a shout out on Instagram at WA_mixed, and let us know what you've made. I think that would be really cool. So again, thanks for watching. There is going to be a small time lapse of the heart I showed in the beginning of this video if you're interested in seeing how I made that one. Slightly different than this, but again, it's still iris folding. So I hope you enjoyed this, and you have a wonderful day.